Good morning. Welcome to the Thursday, August 28th City Council Budget Workshop, our fourth and final one of the series. So item 3A, budget review of and discussion on the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget and 5-year capital improvement program 2026 to 2030, inclusive of all funds and forecast. We've got Katie Clayton, Director of Utilities, Elizabeth Huff, Devin Rodriguez, Director of Redevelopment, and then kicking us off, we have Brian Butchar, ACM.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, today I am filling in for Chalet today, but I will be very brief. Just as a quick reminder, this is our fourth and final one. If you will recall, we covered public safety and general fund as well as tax rates on the previous three. Even though this is our final one, it is still every opportunity for you to ask questions. We will record them and respond to them as we've done with all the rest. And if there's any follow-ups, we will definitely get them to you. But our goal again today is to continue to provide information tied to this year's budget. For today specifically, we're now focusing really on enterprise funds. What you saw some of them last week with the special funds, but this week you're going to hear from Katie Clayton. She's got all things utilities, solid waste, as well as stormwater. So big piece of the enterprise funds there. And then you'll hear from Elizabeth Huff on 4A and tourism, as well as Devin on 4B. Now you already heard a little from Devin last week on the general fund side of that, but you'll hear today all on the enterprise fund side of that. And then finally, we'll wrap up with what's going on in the upcoming meetings. So with that, unless you'll have any questions to get started, I'm gonna turn it over to Katie and we'll get going.
Morning. I'm excited to be here to talk to you about the enterprise funds. I've got some great slides talking about utilities, water, wastewater, and surface water. I'll go through some achievements so far this year, and then moving into the FY26 budget, talking about our rate model, 5-year projection to include both O&M and capital, and how that impacts our utility rates. And then I'll move on to solid waste and stormwater and talk about a lot of these same things. So really quickly, Utility Fund 101, what does it cover? It covers the administration and operation of our water, wastewater, and surface water facilities. It includes long-range planning, capital improvements, and everything that we do is highly regulated. So the regulatory compliance side of things. As a reminder, surface water encompasses all things regulatory on the local level with the Fort Bend Subsidence District. They regulate our groundwater to minimize land subsidence. And that includes the implementation of the Integrated Water Resource Plan, which is our long-range water supply planning document, again, tied to those subsidence district regulations that was adopted in 2019. And how it's funded is through monthly utility rates from customers. Again, utility enterprise funds, we cannot be legally using property tax or sales tax fund fees. We do issue revenue bonds as well as utilize connection fees for funding our capital improvement program, as well as the cash reserves to minimize rate swings.
Councilmember Jacobson.
Katie, would you remind us, please, revenue bonds, where does the money to repay revenue bonds come from exactly?
It comes from all our monthly water bills.
Okay, thanks. Not taxes.
No taxes.
Thank you.
Not allowed. Y'all have seen this many times through orientation and throughout many presentations, but really our utility team operates the water and wastewater system 24/7, 365. We have a number of facilities from our water treatment plants. We have 13 total, 12 groundwater, 1 surface water. We have water plant operators who have already been working many hours this morning to make sure that those plants are operational. We have quality staff. We have customer service staff that are responding to customer calls, as well as the field staff And that team is a dedicated and professional team of 90 employees that I am proud to represent today. Similarly, we have a wastewater system, 4 wastewater treatment plants, a number of lift stations, and many miles of sanitary lines. And then we have water supply planning efforts, all tied to those groundwater regulations. I wanted to start out today and talk about some FY25 achievements, highlighting the great things that have happened so far, starting with how we continue to push to be data-driven, the rest of the city, and proactive. And so that first statistic is that we so far this year have produced over 6 billion gallons of water to provide to our residents through those 13 water plants. We have customer service staff who have responded to 4,200 service requests. That is anytime a customer calls and says, I have low water pressure, no water, I can't flush my toilet. Our customer service staff are there to respond again around the clock. We do that. And then over 2,000 work orders, that is service line repairs, that is main breaks. And what I wanted to highlight is our preventive maintenance program. So that 7,500 preventive maintenance actions already taken this year to date. That's things like touching every single fire hydrant in the city so that we are able to ensure that should there be an emergency event, our fire department can rely on the fact that they have a working hydrant and it doesn't delay their response. At the same time, we are also touching thousands of valves across the city on our water distribution system so that should we have a main break, we know that those valves are operational both to ensure that we can make a timely repair as well as minimize the customer impacts. And so, you know, anyone who works in asset management knows that the more time and effort that you spend on the preventative and proactive side, you're saving money on the reactive side. And so we've, over the last several years, put a real maintenance program and made a lot of progress on that. And then the last thing I'll touch on is our AMI program. I've talked about it before, but our advanced metering infrastructure that started several years ago. This year, I'm proud to say that we have completed our mass deployment. And I think it's incredibly impressive to acknowledge that we had third-party contractors and staff touch over 36,000 meters in our community and had less than or right about 500 customer service calls. So about 1% of those meters that we touched resulted in a customer call that we were able to resolve in a timely manner. And so just a massive undertaking. I don't know of another project where we touch a piece of infrastructure in front of every single person's house in the city, and just incredibly successful. It really ties back to the dedication and the professionalism of our staff.
Councilor Jacobson?
I just saw on the news yesterday that the city of Houston just ordered 26,000. That's 10,000 fewer than us, and they have what, 10 times as many meters as we do, maybe 20 times as many? So yay, Sugarland.
Yeah, it's a very good program, and they are actively in that next phase of the project, which is our customer portal, which is also very exciting because it's going to give the opportunity for us to provide that data back to the residents of their hourly water usage so that they can make changes in how they choose to use water at their homes, as well as be able to identify leaks faster.
Councilor Single?
Yeah, one question. How is the trend of the total water usage over the years? Is it increasing, decreasing?
It is highly dependent on weather, and I'll talk about weather here in a minute, but we do see overall an increase. I'll also talk about growth in a minute while you know, we look at the census numbers and they're decreasing. On the utility side, we're not seeing that because we are experiencing on the water system. So
Thank you.
moving from there into compliance, like I said, everything that we do on a day-to-day basis is highly regulated either at the local, state, or federal level. And we had a very busy year for compliance. The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ, regulates all of our water facilities, and they inspect those on on various schedules, but for our wastewater plants, it's every 3 years. And this was our year for wastewater plant inspections. They visited all 4 of our wastewater plants, and I'm proud to say that we walked away with no major violations or fines, which is again a testament to our dedicated and specialized staff who operate that partnership with the Brazos River Authority, who operate those facilities, as well as our staff. We completed all of our compliance efforts utilizing in-house staff. We have some TCEQ former employees who have retired, who have a great deal of expertise, and they work in other departments, but they come and help us at utilities whenever we have inspections coming up. And these inspections are incredibly time consuming. The state is here for 2 days at each facility. There's an enormous amount of paperwork they ask us to pull. They do staff interviews, as well as spend a lot of time at the facilities walking through. And so just a major effort on the state inspections this year, as well as our stormwater program. Our stormwater program changed after the annexation of Greatwood and New Territory, and we went up to a higher level for our MS4 program. We submitted that permit earlier this year in February and had our first ever inspection by the EPA. Again, incredibly time consuming for them to come in. They want to look at all of our records. They want to talk to our staff and see what we're doing. Another clean inspection. And in fact, they were incredibly complimentary of the program that we have. So I just wanted to highlight some of the great things that staff has done this year. On the in-house maintenance side, we have, we're not part of the general fund, but we are not, we jumped in with both feet on efficiency work. And I wanted to highlight some of these projects that normally we would have contracted out, but our staff this year was willing to jump in and take on some of that work. The top left corner is our surface water plant. Some of y'all have toured, others we still need to get that on the schedule, but those are membrane filters that are part of the treatment process. They look like big straws, and they're actually filled with more things that look like straws, but that filters out impurities in our water. Those are original to the plant, and as the plant is 10 years old, it's about time to be replacing those. So we went through the first, we have 5 racks of them. We replaced the first rack this year. And after evaluating both the cost of the materials as well as the labor, we would have to be contracting and bringing in people from out of state. Our staff decided that they would be willing to take on that project. And so for 2 days, we had staff that made those replacements, and we estimate that we saved about $60,000 to $70,000 in labor costs.
Right.
The picture below that is our 7th Street lift station. We have 134 lift stations, and 133 of them operate very similarly with submersible style pumps. And this is an oddball. It has some blower style pumps. That system failed this year, and rather than replacing it in kind, our pump and motor staff chose to convert that over to a submersible style, and they did that all in-house. And another savings of about $60,000 to $70,000. Not only repairing it, but also moving forward, the ability to maintain that facility just like all of the others is critical. And then the last thing I'll touch on is the police department had some training buildings this year, and our field operations staff took the opportunity to install some of that infrastructure. So some great in-house maintenance. Again, we have expert level staff, and they were more than willing to jump in and take on some of these projects. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about our professional development and community interaction. Our staff actively participate at both the local and state level at Texas Public Works Associations, as well as the Texas American Water Works Associations. Those are the professional organizations that are really top notch for our the work that we do. I would say 5 years ago, our management level went to those conferences and participated. And over the last 5 years, we have increased participation, and really all levels of our department are actively participating. And it's been really fun to see. That top left corner is John Combs and Jacob Cruz. They have been participating in what's called hydrant hysteria. And so they take a fire hydrant and it is completely broken down into 50 different pieces, and a team of two, it's a race to see who can put a hydrant back together. They do it in about a minute and a half, and it is incredibly impressive. They won the Public Works Association competition this year, and so that's them with their medals up.
That's awesome.
This is great.
I'll say that we did the meter challenge as well, where they take a bucket full of meter parts to decipher which ones are the appropriate ones for that meter manufacturer and put it all together. And really, you know, not only is it great that they're competitive, but it's really great that they have the opportunity to go to these conferences. You can see the pride that they have in competing against the San Antonio water systems and the Fort Worth and the Corpus Christi, these major utilities, and our guys hold their own. And really just that opportunity to showcase who Sugar Land is and build our reputation, but also for them to be out there and networking and understanding how other utilities operate is just incredible, and super proud of the team. And then we continue to have a focus on our community outreach. A lot of times people just wake up in the morning and turn on their faucet and flush their toilets and don't necessarily recognize that there's a whole group of staff associated with making that happen. And so we look for opportunities to go out and tell the community who we are and what we do. We've continued our partnership with the Museum of Natural Science this year and host an exhibit in the spring that is field trip season. So we saw about 8,000 community members go through that exhibit, 5,000 of which were children. And we have, you know, a showcase on the first floor through that where we can really talk about who Public Works and utilities are for the city of Sugar Land. And then we participate in the Public Safety Expo. We love bringing out the excavators and the equipment, and the kids love to see it, as well as attending HOA meetings and hosting Earth Day. So that is 25 in a nutshell, things that have been going on. Talk about projections. And the first thing we talk about whenever we talk about year-end projections is the weather. This is a graph that we have that we kind of follow, that is our rainfall, our cumulative rainfall year to date. So starting in October, how much rain we have gotten through the months. And in orange is highlighted 2025. And I would say that we kind of had a slow start to 2025. And since about May, we have gotten a lot of rain. And so we are seeing that both on the demand and the main break side, which I'll talk about in a minute. But on the top there in 2021, we had a very wet year. In 2022, we had an incredibly dry year. And actually 23 in red in the middle, while we started out strong, had a super dry, hot summer, which impacts us significantly on the operations side. When it gets dry and hot and people are using an awful lot of water, we get a stress on our system and we see main breaks. Year to date for 2025, we've only had, I think 10, maybe 1 or 2 more since I last updated the presentation, but it's been a slow main break season for us, especially when you compare it back to that 2023 and 2022, where we had days, I think our max day, we had 6 in one day. So incredibly impactful both on our operators at the plant as well as our staff who are working these repairs, but also impacts our residents, people off.
Councilor Watley.
Thank you. Can you tell us the financial impact of a main break? You know that number?
They're all different. So it does vary depending upon whether or not it's in the middle of Highway 6 or if it is back in a neighborhood. I don't know the number of that. Yeah, I'd have to.
Councilor Betcher.
Are these age related or is this just shifting ground related? A lot of these breaks.
Shifting ground is definitely plays a role. We do see some of the older neighborhoods and the older pipes do are more prone to breaking. And so we have an asset management program where we're actively tracking these main breaks, where are they located, what's the age of the pipe, what's the material, and we use that to help guide us in our capital improvement programming for rehab.
Follow up.
Yes, follow.
What percentage of our pipes are typically replaced in a given year?
That's a great question. I don't know the percentage off of the top of my head. I'd have to look at that.
Okay.
But we've had a slow main break season. We've also seen that on the consumption side to July, and we're expecting that August will also be lower on the consumption. But when we talk about our revenues, while we have seen that lower consumption the last 2 months, we have seen higher than anticipated interest earnings. And so we expect that our revenues will come in about where we projected or where we budgeted. Similarly, on the expenditure side, we're anticipating that will come in right about where we projected. So overall, our fund balance is anticipated to be 31 million, which is well above our required target. And this is as designed several years ago as part of the subsidence district regulation planning. We increased our water rates to start building our capital reserves in anticipation of the surface water plant expansion, where we will pay for that partially in cash. Moving from there into FY 26 budget, from a planning and strategy context, we do plan for growth in the city. So you asked earlier about growth and our demand increase. You hear the 4% developable land and the population and the census declining. On the utility side, we are anticipating growth. The Rye Hill development will be a utility service or utility customer, a retail customer. Track 2 will be developing and we'll see homes there. The Lake Points, the Imperial, all of that will see an increased growth on our system. And so we are planning for increased demands for that growth. On the system resiliency side, we do have a proactive rehab program. And so we're ensuring that we're continuing to invest in our infrastructure that is aging. And then on the environmental and regulatory side of things, we do have to comply with the subsidence district groundwater regulations. Those regulations went into place in 2014. Thus, we have our surface water plant. The next phases in the regulatory plan as it's adopted today is 2027. However, hot off the press yesterday, the board met and they have been going through a joint regulatory plan review. The board met yesterday and have proposed some amended rules that would delay that next expansion or that next phase of requirements to 2030. And so that's proposed. They have not taken action on that, but we are closely following, and that would benefit us to further delay the next surface water plant expansion.
It was updated on the, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, man.
Yes, Councilor Vonderhaar.
So is it fair to say that all the efforts that have gone on so far with respect to subsidence have been successful, and which has allowed us to delay this next phase? Okay.
Yeah, I would say that the subsidence district monitors subsidence in the region, and we have what's called a PAM site, which is their monitoring site in Sugar Land. It's located right adjacent to the line. In the business park, and there is I don't have a slide this year, but there is kind of a clear change in slope of subsidence pre 2014 and post 2014, where we're seeing land subsidence. It's not eliminated, but it has slowed down the rate of change.
Great, thanks.
For our guiding principles for the utility rate, we do utilize a rate model to look at our utility system. We focus on financial resiliency. We have a focus on stable rates, minimizing any major changes in our rates, as well as utilizing our cash reserves to help us do that. We are focused on meeting our bond coverage requirements and maintaining our AA bond rating. And that includes maintaining a fund balance, operating fund balance. And so for FY 26, the revenues are projected to be 125 million, 0.6. And you can see there that the majority of that comes from our water and wastewater treatment water fees, remainder being those bond proceeds for our capital projects. And then on the expenditure side, we are anticipating FY 26 to be at 119.5 million. 30% of that is operations, 36 is capital.
Councilmember Jacobson?
Katie, does the cost of production roughly rise in the same proportion as sales? Or is a lot of it just, the cost of production, a lot of it's just fixed and it's just small increments?
Yeah, so there is some variable cost when we are producing less water. We have less electrical cost, less chemical cost. But there is a proportion that is the fixed cost. We don't have less staff because we're producing less water. I don't know, I don't have off the top of my head that kind of trend line between the two, but.
Thank you.
For our FY 26 base adjustments, we do assume contractual increases and CPI increases tied to both parts and the materials for making repairs as well as chemicals. Additionally, our raw water supplies, we have two contracts, one with Gulf Coast Water Authority and a second with the Brazos River Authority for that surface water. And those both have contractual increases. We include our capital improvement programming, and I'll talk in more detail about those rehab projects, the IWRP, the Finance District, as well as our development agreements and the projects which will both help serve Rye Hill as well as kind of shore up some of our facilities in the area process. And then on the revenue side, rates go into place in January. The bond proceeds, as well as a Dow assignment. So our water supply contract with the Brazos River Authority, we aren't currently utilizing. We plan on using that once we expand our surface water plant. In the interim, Dow Chemical approached us in the purchase some water, and so we do a one-time kind of annual sale of that water to them. So it offsets our cost for that supply.
Councilmember Stingle?
Yeah. For the wastewater treatment, after treatment, is the water fed back into the water supply?
No, it is not. We have two reclaimed systems in the city, both they're a little bit different and unique. At the South Wastewater Plant, we do have a reclaimed water facility. The city owns and operates that facility, and then we sell that water to Riverstone to fill their amenity lakes and to irrigate. In New Territory, the city provides the effluent to the LID, who owns and operates their reclaim facility to fill their amenity lakes and irrigate. But we do not have direct potable reuse where we take it straight from the plant back to the wastewater plant back to a water plant. Highly regulated.
Follow-up?
Yeah. What about the storm water? Are we reusing the storm water? The one with the rain which is drained off, are we reusing for the?
Sure. So the water that we use at the surface water plant comes from Oyster Creek. It is located, however, in the northern part of our city off of Voss Road and Highway 6. So there's a small amount of stormwater that gets into Oyster Creek and Sugarland and could be taken at the surface water plant. However, majority of it would be downstream. We do have raw water supply contracts with a couple entities. Venetian Estates is one of those. Telfair, Lid 7 is one of those where we provide raw water out of Oyster Creek to fill their amenity lakes, and I believe they irrigate all of some of that.
Any more questions on this?
So looking at FY 26, I have mirrored the graphs that you've seen from the other departments. We're incredibly efficient this year. I I can't say that with a straight face, but we are expecting our operating expenditures to go down. A couple nuances to that on the supply side. In orange, you can see it went from 8.4 to 10 and then back to 8.5. The Gulf Coast Water Authority maintains a pump station on the Brazos River called the Shannon Pump Station. It sustained significant damage during Harvey and some previous high weather or high river events. They need to replace it. FEMA is paying for a portion of it, and they asked all of their customers to pay the pro rata share of the remainder. So last year they had a cash call for $2 million. So 2 million of that difference between 25 and 26 is that Shannon cash call that was a one-time call. Additionally, you can see the green and capital. We had some projects both in FY 24 as well as some that carried into 25 and some new projects in 25 that again were one-time projects. You just approved the generator project at the West wastewater plant. We had similar generator projects that were grants with at our water plants. We purchased 2 mobile generators. Additionally, I showed the membrane replacement at the surface water plant. That was about $300,000 in what we call capital expenditures. And so that capital was really tied to some big one-time projects that we had. And then the last one is I'll highlight is the R&M and professional services. There's been some changes in how we account for dollars with our Brazos River contract for the operations of our wastewater plants. But the swing in those two is tied to our AMI project. Our AMI project, prior to implementing AMI, we had an aggressive meter replacement program. We replaced 10% of our meters every year. We paused that program during AMI because we were addressing so many of those residential meters through that capital project. And instead of not spending those dollars, we knew that there was going to be some additional large meters in that were not part of the CIP project that we needed to address. And so we shifted those funds strategically to start addressing some of those larger meters in the system.
Yeah, Councilor Fisher.
A couple questions. Hoping you can walk us through some of the changes over the years. So obviously professional services almost doubled from 24 to present. Maybe you could talk about what the changes are there. And then for the repairs and maintenance, obviously has gone down. Is that because of efficiencies that you guys found, or is that simply just deferred maintenance that's going to show up on later budgets in future years?
So that is what I was just talking about. The repairs and the maintenance and the professional services, if you combine those two lines, the trend is much flatter. Repairs and maintenance in 24 included the entirety of our contract for operating the wastewater plant, which is about $5 million. Some of those funds in 25, our accounting system changed, how we accounted for those dollars changed a little bit and how we categorize them. So those dollars shifted into the 25 from the 24 repair and maintenance to the 25 professional services.
Okay.
So it's unfortunately just kind of a product of how we accounted for things that make them kind of look off.
And the same question for the capital expenses. Most of those deferred to bonds at this point, and that's why the number is pretty low at this point.
Those were special projects. Those were our grants that we received from TDM, from the Texas Department of Emergency Management. The generators at the West wastewater plant, as well as 2 large mobile generators for the water plant. The 2 large mobile generators were about $850,000. So they were grant opportunities that, that we just don't, we've done in 24 and 25 and won't have it.
Okay, thank you.
So while we have, you just saw the O&M side, I'm going to talk about the CIP side. Again, talking about how our infrastructure is aging. So you see a lot of projects that are rehab up here. Overarchingly, our CIP proposed for water, wastewater, and surface water totals. On the water side, we will be rehabbing some of our elevated towers as well as water plants and wells. Those are kind of annual programs that we do. Some things that are maybe less annual include, you see the water south of the Brazos, our water plant. Same on the wastewater side, some funding associated with that. That is tied to that Rye Hill development. Rye Hill will be paying their pro rata share through connection fees, as well as any future growth. So that new water plant will provide resiliency for our existing Greatwood system that is at capacity. It will provide capacity for Rye Hill as well as capacity for beyond Rye Hill. And for water and wastewater, we do plan for beyond our city limits. We plan out to our ETJ. Given the changes in the legislature and what we saw with Rye Hill, we are looking to plan beyond that as well.
Councilmember Jacobson?
Thank you. Okay, if I remember correctly, the west treatment plant is in the GO bond package. No, it's, okay, that is again revenue bonds.
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep, and that one is also tied to that West wastewater plant serves New Territory, River Park, and will serve Track 2, the Abbey Lakes development. And so that project, Abbey Lakes will be paying connection fees, but it will also be investing in a facility that has been in need of some rehab. So it'll be dual purpose, both growth as well as the existing facility rehab. And then, yeah, I think that's it on FY26. Moving into the 5 years total CIP. These are only our water projects in the 5-year plan, totaling $64 million. I'll note that several of these you will see, for example, our groundwater storage tank rehab is design and construction for the total years FY27 through FY30. So we spend $1.4 million annually to rehab our groundwater tanks. Yeah, you'll see that on a lot of the rehab there, again, reinvesting in our existing aging infrastructure. On the wastewater side, you will see some additional projects for the wastewater plant south of the Brazos. That is a new facility. It will take our existing Greatwood wastewater plant offline. So again, it is providing to all of Greatwood, Rye Hill, as well as planning for additional growth. And then rehab both at our wastewater plants, lift stations, and collections. As well as in our north wastewater plant. That one, wastewater totals just shy of 55 million. And then on the surface water side, again, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but this has some heavy funding for our surface water plant expansion as the regulations stand today. It is 2027. I talked about the proposal to delay that. We will be continuing to follow and reevaluate that. Although I will say that plan is 10 years old, and so we are finding that we need to be rehabbing parts of that plant. So even if we shift out these dollars, we might need to shift back in some for rehab of the facility. And so in total, this is what the 5-year capital plan looks like for utilities. Which leads us to the 5-year forecast. You can see those revenues and expenditures, the revenues exceeding the expenditures in the FY26 and 27 as we continue to look to build our reserves. Again, in design, it's planned so that we can pay down part of the surface water plant in cash and not have to issue bonds for the entirety of the project.
Yes, Councilor
This
Singh.
financial year 28 seems to be sticking out with heavy loss there. Is it just because a lot of projects happens to be on that year?
So 2028 is when we would be doing the construction of the surface water plant expansion as it stands today in the model. And so that is, they said, about $120 million project. And we plan on paying 20 of that in cash. So the drawdown from 34 down to 7 is a heavy, cash.
To follow up?
Yeah, so this over 5 year, it's roughly $300 million in terms of project. Do you think the majority of the upgrade will be done in these 5 year? Or you expect the similar rate of capital project to continue?
Yeah, so I would say that, outside of the surface water plant expansion, which is 120 million of that, we do see the need to continue to invest in rehab in those facilities. And so we will continue to project groundwater plant rehab projects and well rehabs, lift station rehabs. I think our wastewater plants are gonna need some major investments once, in the coming years as those continue to age as well. So I would say that we don't anticipate that we will see $120 million swing like the surface water plant expansion again, but we do expect that we will continue to have to heavily invest in our.
Councilor Batchor?
So to follow up on that question, I think what I'm struggling to figure out is how much of this is just from expansion versus how much of this is actually embedded rehab and operating expenses baked into, these bonds.
The bonds are to fund the capital projects, and so, I don't have them broken out necessarily by rehab versus expansion. The plan is to build the new water plant and build a new wastewater plant on the south side of the Cass River. Those are heavy capital projects. The plan to expand the water plant is heavy. And it's not new growth, regulatory based projects. And then the remainder of that. We don't have the percent breakout for you.
Maybe you could figure that out and get back, but.
Councilor Jacobson?
Maybe are the south of the Brazos, are those plants expandable? Okay,
They are, yeah, so the first phase of our wastewater plant will be 2 million gallons. The site itself had the space to expand to 6 million gallons. Which quite frankly, I don't know how that would be a massive plant. That's the size of our north and our south plant would serve half the city. The water plant also has the ability to expand, and almost double in size. From the rate perspective for FY 26, you can see on the left, the utility rates broken out. We have base fees as well as volumetric fees on water. On wastewater, it is based off of your winter average, and then surface water is based off of your total consumption. But then what that looks like on an FY 26 bill based in reference to 25, 25 rates for a 10,000 gallon bill is right at $104 per month, and in FY 26 would be proposed to be a 3% increase at 17 cents to bring us to 107. So all of the rate impacts for FY 26 it's proposed to be a 3% increase. And then looking into the 5-year future, you can see those associated bills there. Again, a 3% rate is what is anticipated to be into the 5-year plan. And that is all I have on utility.
Any more questions for Katie? Councilor Longhorn?
Great job, first of all, great job. I love your staff. As we project, list these projection increases out there, it's basically 3% a year. And we hear a lot, and we heard a lot in the last council meeting from budget perspective, how a lot of our residents live on a fixed income. They don't get that 3% increase. Do we have any type of program that helps those citizens pay for their water bill when it gets to a point above where they can afford it?
I don't know that the city has a program. I believe the county may have an assistance program. I'd have to ask. I will say, one of the things that I think is exciting is with this AMI program, a resident doesn't have to wait till the end of the month to see what their bill and what their usage is gonna be. You're gonna be able to do that on a daily basis, and that they will have the tools in the information at hand to be able to adjust their water usage as they,
Yeah, well, a great job on the inspections and the in-house membrane replacement, and do keep us updated on the Fort Vincent Sinus District, if there's any meetings that council should attend, particularly when it comes to the vote about postponing to FY30.
Yes, I will. We'll have an FYI out.
Okay.
Full details. So moving from there, to the solid waste fund. Solid waste enterprise fund supports, commercial and residential solid waste removal. That's our municipal, trash, recycling, bulky waste, and green waste. It does also provide the emergency response for debris removal, community engagement, and again, like our other enterprise funds, is completely funded through our user fees. So, monthly bills. And we have a contract with Republic Services to provide this service for residential and commercial solid waste. And that contract was awarded in 2023. On the operating expenditures, 95% of this budget is our Republic contract. So there's not a whole lot of excitement here. I'll talk in just a minute about their CPI increase, but will be 5% this year. And that makes up the bulk of the changes here between 25 and 26. If you look at 24, that is the response to Hurricane Beryl. So that is the debris services in the amount of about $6 million.
Councilmember Bonner.
Okay, have we been reimbursed for that yet?
We have not. It is with FEMA for reimbursement, and they have reviewed everything.
Correct.
So
We're at the review stage. There's many months of that.
Yeah.
Also, it took 4 months off where they were contracts, let's put it that way. So it was very delayed. So, but it's in FEMA's hands, and then I'll go to the state. We're hoping by January. That's what I've been told.
Councilmember Fisher.
Oh, so on slide 35, you're talking about the 6 million per barrel. So that would put us at what, 8.5 million for 2024 roughly. So we're going up about what, $500,000 each year for just the overall expense. Okay. Just clarify.
Councilmember Jackson.
Thank you. So on the money that we expended for the for Beryl, the excess money, did we pull that out of reserves, or did we borrow it from the general fund, or what?
we borrowed it from the utility fund. Our Republic contract allows for an annual increase to the higher of 2.5% or to not exceed 5%. It is tied specifically to a solid waste CPI, and that solid waste CPI for this year, for the last 12 months, is at 6%. So we will hold them to the 5% allowable CPI in the contract. And so that new rate will be $22.97 per month for our residential customers. And then I wanted to take some time and talk about emergency response, both the history and how we are proposing to plan for the future. The city is committed to actively responding to events like hurricanes and winter storms. Not only does that mean keeping water running and keeping our streets open, but also picking up debris. And so when we talk about debris and the history, you can see the table here dating back to Hurricane Ike, the amount of debris that was collected, how much it cost the city, and then the FEMA reimbursement. It is a reimbursement from FEMA, like we just talked about. So the city is expected to pay all of those upfront costs. And then should FEMA decide that it is a reimbursable event, then they will come back and review all of our documentation and eventually reimburse us. So Hurricane Beryl,
Councilmember Bonner.
Hey, real quick, should they decide to reimburse us, what happens if they don't?
it is on the city's cost. Yeah, I will say what's a little bit unique about Hurricane Beryl is that while FEMA decided to do 75% reimbursement, the state of Texas, the Department of Emergency Management stepped up and offered to take on the other 25%. I believe that was unprecedented. Don't have any history of them doing that. Did not expect them to do that. Should probably plan in the future for them not to do that. given the expense, but
Councilor Jackson.
I would like everyone to note that those of us who experienced Uri and those of us who experienced Beryl, the city learned a lot from Uri, and whereas Uri took what seemed like a very long time to clean up the debris, we had 5 times as much debris from Beryl, and I think we got that cleaned up in less time because of some proactive
Yeah.
planning that the city
Very good.
did.
Well done.
I cannot take any credit for the barrel debris collection, but I will say that the moment that staff had an opportunity, that I think when the eye was over us, staff were out on the streets recognizing that we were gonna need to do something, and we were activating those debris contractors before any other city area, so. And had it picked up before any other city in the area. I think that ties into our next slide about how we should be planning moving forward, and just acknowledgement that this is the level of service that our residents are asking for. These emergency events are not fun, they're not easy, and we're saying, everyone wants to get back to normal, and that includes not seeing debris piled up. And so how do we plan for that? How do we plan for that from a FEMA perspective? The graph before showed where FEMA used to reimburse us 100%. It is now dropped down to 90%. Now it's at 75%. Both for that percent as well as the damage thresholds, we're seeing and hearing conversations around what that threshold looks like. It's tied to $1 per capita of damages. And so that's one of the reasons why it's really important that we have staff out immediately after who are taking inventory of here's what all the damages are across the city, so that we can build that number and hopefully meet that threshold. Both it kind of rolls up from the local to the state level for emergency declarations. So as we walked away from and completed the response to Hurricane Beryl, we were having those conversations internally about how are we going to plan for this in the future? We did not have the fund balance in solid waste to cover the $6 million. We did have the fund balance in utilities because we have been proactively building that fund balance for our surface water plant expansion. But can we rely on that in the future? And so what's being proposed is that we, I apologize, I did not catch this slide, but a disaster recovery fee on the residential bills that would help build the fund balance in solid waste a little bit faster than it builds today. At $1 a month for our residential customers, that's equivalent to an additional $420,000 per year into the reserves. It would be dedicated specifically for debris response. It is not going to get us to a Hurricane Beryl level next year, but we do expect that, Winter Storm Uri was about $400 in response. So at $1 per year, it would either cover us for one small non-reimbursable event, or every 7 years it would bill out like a Hurricane Beryl. And so this was what staff is recommending as a way to continue to build that fund balance, make that fund more resilient to these emergency events that we are finding happening more frequently.
Okay, will this be a separate line item on the bill, or will it be added on to something
It
else?
would be a separate line item on the bill. And so a solid waste comparison for FY 25 versus 2025 to 2026. Again, that solid waste fee previously being $21.88, the 5% increase in the emergency response fee totals $23.97 per month. And lastly, we will talk about stormwater compliance.
Sanjay?
Sorry, I had one question. Is there any plan for hazardous waste collection by the city in future, even it's a drop off?
There is. So last year we did a pilot program through an HGAC grant that was incredibly successful to do a drop off event. This year we are planning 2 drop off events moving forward based off of how successful that was, as well as a lot of feedback that we went and asked the residents about their preferences. So the plan would be to do 2 household hazardous waste drop-off events.
Thank you.
On the stormwater side, this is revenue, generated for things that needs to be funded out of the general. That includes our stormwater management program compliance, that MS4 that I talked about, the EPA coming and visiting us. As well as our drainage infrastructure, maintenance program that is, the public works side that Herc talked about last week. It does not fund any capital projects. And overall, because we saw the need on the solid waste side to make that fund more resilient, the fund is sitting at it's meeting its reserve need. And so we are not planning any rate increases in 26. You can see here the revenues are anticipated to be 2.05 million and the expenditures is 2.9, so a little bit of drawdown on this fund. But the bulk of those expenditures for the public works drainage maintenance, then 20% stormwater management program. And then looking at the operating expenditures, you can see that we have some savings this year on the expenditure side that is tied to some capital project.
Heather Bonner.
Katie, sorry, I'm always a slow guy. If you could back up a couple slides, we had the comparison, last year versus this year. One more, go back one more.
Give a slide number.
Page 39. Yeah, so if you look at that total increase, just the, from 2028 to 2397, that's about a 9.5% increase. I guarantee you, our citizens are gonna do that math. And you tell them they're getting a 5% increase, and the reality is they're getting a 9.5% increase. Just get ready. I've already had people in my neighborhood call me complaining about, why is our water bill so high? So just get ready. And they're gonna do that math. They're gonna, you're gonna advertise 5%. They're gonna do the math and find out it's 9.5, so.
Yeah, 5% on the Republic, but the
Right.
new, yes.
Well, Jim, thanks for bringing us back to that, because I had a thought. Forget who mentioned it about how we do have people on fixed incomes and whatnot. I was wondering if we do that emergency response fee, if, for instance, we could do sort of a negative consent style or an opt-out style where it's added to the bill, but because we have the online access now, people can choose to opt out of that $1 fee. Is it a possibility?
That is not an option.
No. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Can we do the opposite? I'm sorry.
Heather, one thing.
Can we do the opposite? Can we make it an option to donate to it? She's saying maybe. I mean, I agree we need to do it, but to Jim's point, there are some people who are not gonna be happy about it. We're gonna
I hear that. It's,
fix this, Mike.
the reality is, we have these costs. I mean, the reality is, and it takes years and years. We didn't get reimbursed for probably 5-6 years, all of it. And so it's just, that is the reality. And so we're trying to find the best way to plan for it, because you can't just keep doing $6 million loans out of the water fund or out of this fund or out of that fund. These events are just getting more expensive. And so this is the way we're proposing to move forward.
I get it. I mean, I understand it. I think it's kudos to you. I think it's thinking in advance. I like that. I know my neighbors, they're gonna do the math. They're gonna see 5%. Yeah, it's bullshit. Excuse me. Sorry, scratch that from the record. But they're gonna do that math. They're gonna see it. And this is not 5%. This is 9.5%. So it's
Well, it's gonna be a separate line item, just like that, yeah, but still.
total bill.
But total bill is, but yeah, yes.
Well,
Continue.
to that point, this is solid waste. You're talking water. There is a difference.
Absolutely.
So, they have the ability to control their water consumption. And we're talking about people who are at a very fixed income and who may not be able to afford an extra dollar. I mean, really, but I see that we have the need. We just have to balance that with considering people who just really are on a
Absolutely.
really tight fixed income.
I get it.
And with no way to opt out, it's just kind of tough. I know that's not gonna hurt you and me probably. But if there was an option just to do something different, but I don't know if there is. I just don't know if there is. I mean, we're trying to be considerate here, but we also have to be responsible.
Good job. And kudos for
Thank
even
you.
thinking of it. Yeah, so this.
So this is my very last slide, just the proposed rates, again, being the same as 2026 and it being based off of the rate there. No changes on the stormwater side.
A follow-up.
In the stormwater management, is there any support or money given to the mud system? The mud which are there in the different neighborhood?
Not that I'm aware of, no, it's not in our budget.
Councilor Jackson.
The Lynn City Muds do get a rebate of 50% of property taxes. So that's where it comes from.
No, but not, sorry,
Follow-up.
not on their operation, is that the 50% of the property tax of the mud property, is that right? Not on their operational budget.
Yeah, so what you heard from Herc, sorry,
Yeah, go ahead.
what you heard from Herc last week was the only time that we give operational reimbursements is tied to our maintenance agreements we have with them. There are a number of them, but that is purely tied to mowing and irrigation. We do reimburse some of their water bill for irrigation, and we do reimburse them for what it would cost us to maintain.
And streetlights.
And oh yeah, and streetlights. If they have decorative streetlights that they own that aren't ours, we reimburse them for that as well. We do not give them any of the stormwater fund that you just talked of so that they could maintain their outfalls or any of that. No, that's all theirs. What's theirs is private in there, so.
Okay. That's it. Good for them.
Council. Today we'll be reviewing the FY 26 budget for our 4A Corporation and the Hotel Occupancy Tax Fund, also referred to as the HOT Fund. I'll walk you through key highlights, funding our breakdowns, and the strategic use of our dollar to support Sugarland's economic development efforts. As a quick reminder, the form has already been workshopped and approved by the SLDC Corporation. So first, this is an org chart that shows how staff is structured across economic development and tourism. Although 4A and HOT are separate financial tools, they are supported by one economic development and tourism team. It ensures coordination and consistency and efficient use of staff resources. As the director, I oversee both programs strategically, ensuring that incentive deals, tourism efforts, and special projects align with the city's broader vision. From there, the structure is fund and program specific. We have a dedicated staff focused on business retention, business recruitment, and compliance, which is funding for 4A. And we also have a team focused on tourism marketing, events, and partnerships that's funded through the HOT Fund. Overlap does exist on the marketing side, which helps us reduce duplication in marketing efforts, encourages innovation, and allows us to scale our impact across both funding sources, especially with major projects like FIFA and venue programming that serve both economic development and tourism goals. So currently, I'm leading the Stimulating Economic Growth All In. The key objectives align very closely with what we are already tasked with, but aim to amplify these efforts and set us up for continued success. Our year one projects include a pilot of a business walk program, which was completed in May and went really well. We did the Lake Point Retail Center. Then the next project is an interactive map of new businesses. The third project was Plug and Play. We launched in March. They've already completed their first batch and their second batch will be kicking off here very soon. One thing I want to note with Plug and Play is that we've gotten an interest from over 150 startup companies that are interested in Sugarland. Obviously, not all of them will be a right fit. Obviously, they may need more financial support. But we're working on those leads. And then we also have 2 corporate leads that have come through the project. So not only from the startup side, but from the more established corporation side. The next project is Goal for Goal, which is our FIFA initiative that we're very excited about. And then our last but not least is our tourism and sports strategy. So I can't discuss the budget without first going over our economic development cycle. When we attract companies, primary jobs, and destination venues like concerts, sports, and conferences, people come to Sugar Land. These people need places to stay and places to live, which drives our demand for housing and hotel rooms. As residents and visitors spend their money here in our shops and our restaurants, and generate sales tax and hotel occupancy tax. The revenues go back into our community, funding police, fire, parks, and other quality amenities. The stronger our services and amenities are, the more attractive our city becomes to businesses, residents, and visitors. That brings in even more jobs and venues, and the cycle continues. Essentially, it's attract, spend, invest, reinvest, and grow. With sales tax being the #1 revenue source for the city, it is critical to make sure that we have strong economic development and tourism strategies funded through the 4A, 4B, and HOT. And this investment helps keep our city's budget balanced with our tax rate competitive and our residents enjoying a high quality of life without overburdening them with property tax revenue. In other words, we don't just spend, we invest, and we invest wisely in the right businesses, events, and experiences that pay off for the entire city. So I'll jump into the 4A fund. Really quickly, a key takeaway for this is that we did increase investment in our Salesforce dashboard and training and our Texas Economic Development Corporation. These investments strengthen Sugar Land's presence in Texas and allows us to use data to make decisions on where to invest our marketing efforts and sponsorship dollars. And we track where our leads come from and what industries are growing, for example. Under professional services, we have got contracts like Salesforce, and then we also are working with our planning department to fund the development code updates. Under marketing, this obviously y'all have heard a lot about it. It is where we spend dollars on national and international publications, cover digital ads, public relations campaigns, sponsorships, geography, graphic design, and so on. Many things under that. Under business development and travel, we've got recruitment and retention travel, both locally and nationally. Participation in conferences, hosting consultants, brokers, strategic partners, and a business recognition event. And then under software and data tools, that's where we have for Salesforce, CoStar, JobsEQ, Impact Data Source, ZacTax, Placer. We use lots of different softwares to help us do our job. We've got membership and dues, which is to some of our industry organizations, as well as as well as our real estate groups. So Texas Economic Development Corporation, the Greater Houston Partnership, Fort Bend Chamber of Commerce. We've got a member of the Florida Houston chapter, NAOP, CCIM, and under operating and supplies and admin, this goes towards meeting and board engagement support and corporate gifts and internal team activities. And then 4A and 4B, and sometimes HOT, share these costs for subscriptions, memberships, software licenses, and marketing to avoid duplication and maximize our resources. This joint approach ensures efficient spending and consistent messaging across all operations.
Real quick question. Membership dues, we spend a lot of money on that. And it's well spent if we're doing something other than just paying our dues. Are we actively involved in these organizations? Do we have a voice in these organizations? Do they advocate on our behalf? Are we getting something more than just a membership?
Absolutely. So on the Fort Bend, Chamber of Commerce, we are heavily involved in that. We go to a lot of their events. I think y'all get a table if you want to go. They also have the Fort Bend Partnership Program, which has kind of become a replacement for the Greater Fort Bend EDC. So we are actively involved in that. It's happening right now, so we aren't there, but normally we are usually there. When it comes to the Greater Houston Partnership, our membership, we sit on several different advisory committees. So I sit on the real estate advisory committee, Alba sits on the life science committee. And then they also produce what we call familiarization tours. So they bring in site selectors a couple times a year. And so what we'll do is, being Sugar Land, being at our membership level, we get kind of a priority of different engagement opportunities with them, and kind of a say of we want to even potentially host them here in Sugar Land or tour them through Sugar Land. With Team Texas, I'll talk about it in another slide. Okay. With Team Texas, Alba, we partnered with them on the Bio International Conference. Texas Economic Development Corporation does a lot of different mission trips across the state. Governor Abbott has not been as engaged as say Rick Perry was. Governor Perry, he was very loud and we did a lot more missions with him. Abbott's been more focused on the international platform. But yeah, we're very heavily involved. The good thing about the Texas Economic Development Corporation is that they have, they're like GHP, where they have corporate investors as well. So it's not just public entities. So we're getting to talk to the AT&Ts of the world, and Waste Management's involved over there. CenterPoint Energy obviously is another one. So yes, I'm very big. I used to serve on the Coordinate Houston chapter board. We're heavily involved. We go to their meetings. We'll be, I think, joining on the young professionals side of things. So we're always looking for opportunities to how we can get plugged in and get more engaged.
Yes, Tim.
Elizabeth, when we talked plug and play, one of the big reasons we looked at that was the software access.
Yes.
So can you explain how that, I still don't understand everything, but can you explain how that software is working for us?
It's working fantastically. So, Colby and I, we've been talking to Plug and Play. That's where, so startups kind of go into it's called the playbook. And so they sign up to be a member of their playbook and they can choose like, hey, we're open to relocation. And so since we now have an agreement with Plug and Play, Sugar Land is one of the listed cities of where they could potentially be interested in relocating. So that's how they select Sugar Land. It then gives us a lead that we are able to follow up on. We got so many at once that they are actually going to host a webinar where Colby and I, and even we're going to talk to Reebies, where we'll be pretty much selling Sugar Land to all of them at once. And then if there's even more interest, like to take it to the next level, then we'll engage in those further conversations and see what it would take to get them here. But very big part of our infill strategy, office infill strategy, and making sure that we get more people here so that they can continue to spend their money on our restaurants and retailers.
Asset, thank you.
Okay, so I won't go too much into this. This is about our business recruitment efforts. We don't just wait for businesses to come to us. We are very actively going out and marketing Sugar Land to our targeted industries. This includes CEOs, developers, brokers, site selectors, and more. We use the 4A funds to structure incentive deals that help us win competitive projects, whether we're up against someone else in Texas or across the country. I've already talked about Plug and Play and the bio conference. Alba and Jennifer also attended a Select USA this year, and that was a partnership with Team Texas. It's a conference that is U.S. Department of Commerce led that connects foreign investors with U.S. Cities and companies. We serve on national and regional panels, elevating Sugar Land's visibility and credibility in the economic development space. And it positions us as a thought leader and opens doors for partnerships. It generates leads, and often when it comes through traditional channels, if we weren't out there.
On the 10 startup which are accelerated under Plug and Play, are they all based in Sugar Land or they are elsewhere?
All over. So a lot of them are Houston based. There was one or two that were based in Sugar Land. There was a few that were across the country.
So there are some of them which are still Sugar Land based.
Yes, I believe so. But the goal is to get us exposure, get them here through the batch program. Reality, not all of them are going to stay here. If I get 1 out of 10, I consider that a success. So now onto our business retention. So far this year, we've had 29 completed visits with our newsroom program. These are one-on-one meetings where we stop by, ask how they're doing, find out if they are looking to expand or if they have any issues. We want to keep a pulse on the state of our business community and make sure that we are there to support them through the good times and through the bad. In addition to these meetings, we host businesses of all sizes at our suites at Constellation Fields and Smart Financial, which y'all get to host as well with us. And it allows us an opportunity to have a more casual conversation with business leaders and employees from all levels of the organization. We also have a business recognition event every year. This year we tried a new spin on it, where we hosted a well-attended event at the Talyard with over 107 attendees, including our prominent, major employers, as well as small business leaders. And it underscored our dedication to supporting local businesses through active engagement. And then I also wanted to highlight real quick the teamwork between our redevelopment and economic development teams. and the retail coach. Together, we welcomed around 15 key stakeholders, including retailers and property owners, to discuss our city's commercial revitalization grant program, which market insights and retail trends.
Councilor Fisher?
Is your department tracking the inflow and outflow of businesses within Sugarland?
So the outflow is hard because you don't have any way, like a business just closes, they don't have to notify us. I think the only way would be through like the water bill change of name or something like that. What we do track with our Department of Planning is when people get a certificate of occupancy, that's when we know we have a new business coming in. And so we are part of the team that gets those emails. And then our team is very heavily involved in the design review committee and other things like that. So we are tracking what's coming in. It's really hard for us to track what's going out unless we get a call or somehow we're notified. Marketing is essential to economic development because it creates visibility, it shapes our perception, and drives leads by putting Sugarland in front of the right audiences. We do this through targeted advertising, high quality collateral, and strong digital engagement. You have some of that collateral in your folders that are on the table next to you. This positions Sugarland as competitive, credible, and investment ready. Earned media also amplifies the impact by providing trusted third-party validation, expanding our reach, and enhancing reputation without the cost of paid ads. These tools help us attract new business, investors, and talent, but also keep stakeholders engaged and proud, building both immediate opportunities and long-term growth. Just real quick, just in case you didn't know, we have launched a new Sugarland Economic Development website, which also houses new development information. Please go check it out and lists. You can find available real estate on there. Lots of great statistics and our recent accolades. Keep that updated very. I'm a big believer in regionalism, kind of like what we talked about before. It means that we don't work in a silo. We collaborate with our partners across the region and the state to amplify Sugarland's visibility and economic opportunities. We align with our partners like the Fort Bend County, Fort Bend Chamber, Greater Houston Partnership, and the Governor's Office to leverage these shared resources and attract businesses. The collaboration helps us stay competitive in a global market and strengthens our position for major business recruitment and infrastructure projects. So we are a data-driven team. You heard me mention Salesforce earlier. This is the data that we post to Salesforce. We have a dashboard that looks different than this, but wanted to highlight where a lot of our leads are coming from, and then also how we track the information. We have 3 of our 34 active projects are existing businesses that are looking to expand. And for FY25, we have landed 2 projects. This year, we had to turn away about 70 different projects. Obviously, not all of those are going to be a right fit for our community, but a lot of that is about we don't have the right real estate. So that's why we've got to moving forward, we'll have a big focus on our office infill strategy, pulling those office tenants out of our business park, getting the industrial sites filled, and getting our office buildings filled as well.
Question, man. Talk about being data-driven. How do you measure success?
So in economic development, it has changed a lot. A lot of organizations used to track how many leads you have, set a goal of how many leads that you bring in, how many do you respond to, and how do you win. We used to track and try to announce about 500 jobs a year, a certain level of capital investment. But at this time, like we don't have a lot of to develop on. So for us, we are doubling down on our retail our recruitment efforts, and especially in the life science sector. So for me, I'll go into it. We have some goals and some metrics that we're going after for our business recruitment and our retention efforts. But we're in a weird time right now where we don't have a ton of land. It's not open to a bunch of investment. Like the phone's not ringing off the hook like it used to. So that's where we're really doubling down on our recruitment for life science companies.
And Sanjay?
On the measuring of the success, is it possible to do from the sales tax point of view, that how much of the sales tax increase coming from existing customer and what are the new customer giving us sales tax? That could be one view.
We have some of that data on a tourism side of things. Unless we have a performance agreement with a existing company, we don't have that ability to track what they are producing. We do have a tool that we can track it by company, and we are watching it. So from a business retention effort, one of our employers, it's all confidential information, so we can't like put it up on the website and stuff. But we work with our budget team as well. But one of our major employers, their sales tax revenue has skyrocketed over the last 2 years. And so we're trying to talk to them of like, find out what happened, what changed with your business model. Did you move a new division here that is now bringing a sales tax revenue that is not bringing sales tax revenue? But from a tourism side, we have better tools to help us drive that and what our tourists, our visitors are bringing in. From a business standpoint, it fluctuates all over the place, but we do track who our major sales tax producers are and keep good relationships with them. But, of course. Okay, so from our incentive line, this gives us flexibility to respond to high impact opportunities in real time, as well as ensure we complete payments on our existing agreements if they meet all the thresholds outlined in their agreements. It supports job creation, capital investment, and strategic growth in Sugar Land, and helps us level the playing field with competing with other cities. All incentives go through a performance-based agreement with the SLDC approving, and it ensures accountability and strong clawback provisions. So projects one, I'll go over these really quickly. In May, the SLDC and the SL4B approved in a joint agreement for Town Square to help with redevelopment and reinvestment into this, our first. Great. We are excited about this. These improvements are really going to help drive the desirability of the area for the office market and hopefully fill in the last little bit of office space that is vacant. And then once they have that office space filled, we've got the workforce here. They're going down to our restaurants, they're spending money at our retailers and so on.
Heather Bonner.
Real quick, what is our vacancy rate in Town Square? On the office
On the
sector?
office side,
Side, yeah. Okay.
I know like we have the 8th floor of the building above Salata, like that whole floor is vacant, but other than that, it's just a bunch of little.
Yeah, it's good.
And then, y'all also recently approved our agreement with AOI, which is something we're really well. On the fiscal efficiency side, we've reduced our overall budget over the last 3 fiscal years while maintaining our service levels and absorbing inflationary costs internally. They come from cutting redundant services, limiting our supply purchases, and sharing resources across our corporations. And it reflects our commitment to being lean, responsible, and maximizing the impact of every dollar. And then we are also going to be implementing a application fee for a tax abatement that comes through for $1,000 in a submittal, and that will be effective on October 2025. This is just a
Councilmember Betcher.
Quick comment, can you go back one slide for me, or the 57? Well, I think we can all agree, 57. I think we can all agree that filling out like town center or other office spaces is one of our priorities. I think a lot of us talked about on the campaign trail. But just wanted to quick reiterate or inquire, how come filling out the empty office space was not part of the agreement with the agreement that was made for town center?
Because the incentive was focused on infrastructure. And so the infrastructure will be what drives the office infill. We did have a job requirement with it, so that is tied into the overall development. But I think to make it successful, we had to focus on the infrastructure, and it will drive it.
I do want to add that in the market, we look at the office market all the time, and what we were seeing from tenants and what they wanted was the amenities and the upgraded office space. So we focused on that and getting that to Town Square, and once we have that, that will drive the market demand. And the agreements also took into conversations with Reeves, the broker conversations, and working with them to attract tenants while those infrastructure improvements are happening. So when they're completed, we have those tenants. So those conversations are already happening. But what tenants really wanted in the market were the amenities like the cafe, the upgraded lobby spaces, the upgraded office spaces, the pocket parks that we have included in that agreement. And so that we're hoping will drive that market demand.
There's been a flight to quality. So if you have a class space, they're full. Their rents are really high. You have class B, class C, it's not the same situation. And that's what, it's not just Sugar Land, it's not just Houston, it is the entire country. There's a lot of people looking at adaptive reuse of all turning them into residential. A lot of them are getting demolished. And so it's a struggle that we all have. But if it's a flight to quality and we lost floor because they went to a building that cost them a lot less money and they had everything right around them. They had daycares, they had restaurants, they had retailers. Over here, they were on an island. They were surrounded by parking and water. Literally. So this slide just kind of shows a visual of our budget reduction over the last 3 years. What's to come? When it comes to our business evolution and expansion efforts, our goals for this year are 40 business retention expansion visits. We've got 4 roundtables with industry leaders, and we're going to be launching the office infill strategy by January 2026. On the recruitment side, we are going to be hosting businesses at the FIFA events and games. We have at least 3 business recruitment trips. A lot of that normally it would be higher. We get to reduce that number because we're going to be all hands on deck April through July. Also we'll be launching an innovation fund to complement the plug and play initiative for startups to establish a presence in Sugar Land. And then really quick, are you ready for something sweeter? We're going to be launching our new marketing campaign and we're super excited about this. Just want to give you a little teaser. We're going to be doing a presentation. Well, the team will be doing a presentation at a joint board meeting here soon.
Listen, this takes us right before we get to visit Sugar Land here. And we'll be back at 9:05.
Visit Sugar Land. Who are we? We're the Destination Management Organization, also known as a DMO, for Sugar Land, which means we serve as the city's tourism arm. Our purpose is to attract visitors to the city to help create positive and memorable experiences once they are here. Our goal is to generate hotel occupancy tax and sales tax from our visitors. We work to reinvest those funds back into our tourism economy and continue the cycle of economic development. Pot funding is guided by state statute and ensuring we align with our core mission of reinvesting back into our partners and support our tourism economy. Every dollar that we spend follows state statute guidelines. We do that by making Sugar Land as a great place to visit for unique experiences, partnering with our key venues, hotels, and businesses to attract larger audiences, helping plan and support conferences and events that benefit our hotels and local attractions. Overall, our purpose is to increase economic impact by increasing hotel stays, spending at local businesses, and showcasing Sugar Land as a premier destination. Over the past few years, Sugar Land has seen growth in its tourism. Our visit nights are up 18%, reaching 1.3 million, showing that more people are choosing to stay longer in our community. In turn, and most importantly, for reinvestment, hot revenue has doubled over the last 3 years to more than 3 million, strengthens our ability to support tourism initiatives and support our hotels and our venues. Just as a quick side note, from 2019, we have rebounded in 2023. We have surpassed our pre-COVID hotel occupancy tax. And to continue the growing tourism economy, the first graphic will highlight tourism supported employment, the annual average of jobs directly tied to our visitor activity. The second graphic shows direct travel spending. So this is back to your question on sales tax. Purchases that visitors make during their trip directly supporting our restaurants, our shops, our retailers, and our attractions. Both measures are showing growing over year, telling a clear story that Sugar Land's visitor economy is not only rebounding, but expanding and fueling long-term economic growth. For our social media growth, I actually went and checked this morning. We are now from 25,004 followers on Instagram to 26.4 thousand. A strong digital presence is really important to growing our tourism economy. We hit a major milestone recently on the VSL's Instagram, where we're at the over 26,000 followers. All of our social platforms have shown great growth in 2025. Specifically on our economic development side for LinkedIn, we have doubled since the start of the year. A big part of our growing Sugar Land's tourism economy is making sure our story reaches the right audiences. One way we do this is through our strategic influencer partnerships, collaboration with our PR firm. These influencers are based in regional drive markets, so their audiences are people who can easily have a trip to Sugar Land, a drive trip to Sugar Land. This summer, we partnered with 2 Dallas dads who visited in June to celebrate Pride Month and Father's Day. They shared their family trip with nearly 96,000 followers, generating more than 73,000 media impressions. And then in July, we hosted Black Hiking Queen, who highlighted Sugar Land's outdoor activities, attractions, and food scene. Her content reached 49,000 followers and created over 75,000 media impressions. These partnerships help amplify Sugar Land's visibility, showcasing our authentic visitor experiences to audiences who are actively looking for weekend trips and family getaways. Not only do visitors look at Sugar Land to stay up to date on what's happening around our city, but this growth expands our visibility, keep us top of mind for travelers, meeting planners, and business investors. So our new Visit Sugar Land website launched in April of this year and has already become a key driver of visitor engagement with over about 24,000 visitors each month. The site was built with new features designed to better serve our visitors and meeting planners, including a chat bot for instant support, an interactive map highlighting attractions and public art. So if you haven't checked out the map, please do. And please encourage your friends because it shows all the great things to do in Sugar Land.
Councilor Fisher.
For the last slide, is the city paying social media influencers?
We do. It's part of our marketing campaign.
Okay, what's the budget for that?
Let's see. It is under our marketing and promotion, so we have a total 280,000, but that covers photography, video, a lot of different things as well. I will have to get the breakout for the influencer.
Councilor Watley.
Thank you. Elizabeth, this might be a weird question, but you know, when I go somewhere like San Antonio or Austin for a weekend, I don't want to have to figure out what to do. I just go to their page, like visit Sugar Land or visit Austin. What to do while you're here? Do we have that kind of page where like
Absolutely.
suggested day?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, and we've even improved like how that you can direct bookly with our hotels through our website. Like we've streamlined a lot and made it a lot easier and more user friendly, whether you're online on your on the computer or on your phone.
That's so awesome. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I'll get back to you. Our website serves as a key tool for meeting and travel planners as well when considering destination options for their group and events. In terms of traffic, the events page remains the most visited. So a lot of y'all get questions about what is there to do in Sugar Land? What's going on this weekend? What's up next month? We keep an active list of all of the events that are coming to Sugar Land. It includes Smart Financial, the baseball, all special events. We don't have like HOA events. Obviously those are private, but anything that's happening in the city, it's on there as if they let us know. In terms of traffic, the event, more than 23,000 of our visits are organic, which is really huge and significant. We're not paying advertising. We do pay for advertising to draw people to our website, but the fact that we're getting that much organic traffic is significant. So here we go from our hot operating budget. We've got 280,000 for marketing and promotions, software and data and tools. We've got 125,000. We on the similar to economic development, we have a economic impact tool for our events and that we can use. We have split placer and other things like that as well. And then other item in our marketing is our Sweet Shop sponsorship. So FY26 is the last year that we are contracted with Smart Financial to have that activated. And then we've got hot grants, which is new to our back. We used to do this pre-COVID. We had to cut hot grants when COVID hit, but we are bringing it back this year, and it allows us to take hotel tax dollars and reinvest them directly into tourism activities and help generate more overnight stays. These grants can help attract and support things like festivals at the Crown, large groups and conferences, sporting events, marketing initiatives, and tourism development projects. Whenever Alyssa's out there talking to conventions and groups and meeting planners, a lot of the comments that we get back is you're really far from the airports. What, it's really hard for us to kind of sway people that it's okay to drive from Bush or from Hobby. And so one thing that we've done that's been really helpful is we'll, through our hot grant, we can pay for a shuttle service. And that's usually like a good tipping point for our convention planners. They're like, okay, if you cover that, it makes it a lot easier for the attendees to come to our.
Elder Betcher.
The total revenue for the hot tax is about 3 million. So this is 1.6 for the budget. Where's the other 1.4 going?
So we pay about 600,000 for the debt at Marriott. And then we have also, this year we have about 600,000 we used to pay for Smart Financial debt service, that we moved that to the Smart Financial. We have that kind of, it's not allocated to anything right now. It'll be on the fund balance, but we are a historic preservation, so we'll be working to see how we can use those funds to support historic preservation. And then there's the service, and then we pay for salaries. We've got a cost allocation model that we pay into. We have the FIFA sponsorship this year. That's $550,000.
We've also got about a $400,000 positive net income for fiscal year 26 plan, so that won't be allocated as expenditures. For 26, we're looking at roughly 2.6 million in expenses compared to the 3 million in revenue.
And then we also pay for the visitor center. So before we purchased Imperial, we owned the container warehouse building. And that housed our visitor center, and then Fort Bend Children's Discovery Center. So we've always paid for the electric out there. We maintain a balance in case, like the chillers, one year the chillers went out like 3 times, and those had to be fixed and replaced. Little fees like the inspections and stuff like that for the elevator. With us purchasing Imperial, we have added more money into that line item. It's not called the visitor center anymore, it's called Imperial, just for us to be able to support the overall development.
Okay. No more follow-up.
Follow-up.
So looks like the biggest expense is marketing and promotion. I know we have other budgets with marketing as well. What's our total combined marketing between like 4A, 4B and all the other promotional marketing for the city of Shreveport?
I don't know. I can get it for you. I don't know what all 3 of them combine. But I believe only 4A, 4B and hot are eligible to pay for marketing.
Right, we see their missions overlap. Most of them.
So our team is making efforts to create spaces where our hospitality partners can be collaborative. One of the ways we do this is with quarterly partner events. It gives us a platform to provide them with value and give them an outlet to support each other.
I'm sorry. When we do marketing and promotion, we have contracts with PR firms and whatnot. What we do is we bring it to 4A and 4B, and what happens is 4A, 4B, and sometimes HOT all share in the cost. So we're not duplicating efforts. Okay.
It gets a little complicated because hot can't participate with everything if it's not quality of life or visitor specific. But yeah, we are actively working together. Jessica, Alba, and Devin and myself, like we're always looking at our budget, and we split a lot of things 2 or 3 ways. So also our tourism and economic development have often collaborated to support our businesses. Recently, we were able to connect Methodist and Nexus Energy and help them bring some events to Sugar Land. And that's because and Jen are talking and saying, hey, our business wants to have an event, but they're looking at downtown Houston, but we don't want them to go downtown. So how can we keep them here? The other thing is Alyssa gave a suggestion to Talyard to do a Christmas in July event. That was really successful. We had a bunch of meetings that went. They offered a 10% discount so that people could start booking the venue for the holiday season. And that was really successful for them. Our partnerships, we've got Jazz Fest and Sweet Beats at the Crown Festival site. And we're anchored by our major venues like Smart Financial and Constellation Field and the Houston Museum of Natural Science. We work closely with large scale events and together with Sweet Beats and Jazz Fest, we generated over 930,000 economic impact and more than 15,000 tickets sold over the 2 weekends in their first 2 years. Through sponsorships and activations, Visit Sugarland supports our venues and events by helping them attract larger audiences and amplify their exposure beyond Sugarland. Our priorities, our tourism economy has been steadily growing with increases in visitor nights, spending, and hot revenue year over year. FIFA World Cup 2026 represents a next level and once in a lifetime opportunity to accelerate that momentum. Through the $2.5 million host city supporter sponsorship funded by HOT SLDC and 4B, Sugarland gains exclusive rights to FIFA marks, branding, and hospitality assets. It allows us to market Sugarland on the world stage and host official activations such as watch parties, venue events, and airport promotions that bring visitors directly into our community. This role is about fueling our tourism economy and more overnight stays, more visitor spending at restaurants and attractions, and continued growth in our hot and sale tax revenue. More importantly, the partnership supports 3 out of the 5 strategic initiatives identified in the city strategic action plan.
Councilor Bonner.
When it comes to the hot tax, that's just tax on hotel rooms. Okay, we have a limited number of hotels and a limited number of rooms. What is our occupancy level citywide historically, and how much room is there for us to grow that? There's not a whole lot of rooms there. So, you understand my question?
You're asking if there's opportunity to add more hotel rooms?
I'm asking compared to last year, and we bring FIFA in next year. How much room is there for growth in that hot tax if we don't add any additional hotel rooms?
It's significant. So with that event coming, people will be able to charge more per night. So that we look at the occupancy rates, our average daily rates. And this year, like we were looking at it, we're down compared to last year, but that's because of Beryl. So Beryl had a huge impact and we saw a lot more like a higher occupancy of our hotels. They were also able to charge a higher rate. And so like right now we're looking at the June-July timeline and we see the impact of Beryl. But we've seen like when Super Bowl came, we saw it, and the next year it looked like we were down, but we really weren't, because if we hadn't had Super Bowl, we wouldn't have that extra influx. So there's significant opportunity, and that's why we're working really hard to be proactive on doing a sales efforts to bring in more conventions and meetings in addition to events like and Smart Financial and Constellation Field.
Councilor Jacobson.
How's the hotel occupancy tax rate set?
How is it set?
Well, who sets it? How is it set? Yeah.
It's statute, but we are at our max at 7%.
So what is the current average occupancy rate in the Sugarland hotels?
For
For
just
all hotel combined?
Out of capacity or what?
No, I'm saying what is the occupancy rate? Like 70%, 80%? They would have a number.
fluctuates a lot. So like we, for 2025, we're about 56%.
56%. So that's where possibly the room.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. Thank you.
Councilor Betcher, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, talking about the Super Bowl, what was the boost in, the hotel occupancy tax revenues from Super Bowl when it happened? And then what are we expecting from the FIFA? Like what boost are we expecting revenue wise from that?
So we are gonna provide you a lot more information on Friday and then in the workshop and the city council presentation on Tuesday. But for Super Bowl, we had an increase of $90,000 in hot revenue that would not have happened without Super Bowl. And then obviously with FIFA, we'll amplify that by 7. So I also mentioned this as one of our strategic projects. We've partnered with a consultant, Hunden Partners, to create a comprehensive study, and that combines a sports tourism feasibility analysis with a 5-year strategic tourism plan. It's a joint effort between tourism and Parks and Recreation. The study kicked off in July and is expected to wrap up in early 2026, with sports tourism section being complete by the end of 25. The purpose of this work is twofold: to evaluate Sugar Land's capacity and opportunities to expand sports tourism, and create a strategic roadmap that supports overall growth in our tourism economy. The study includes market research, benchmarking against peer cities, and extensive stakeholder engagement. We've convened a stewardship committee of key staff and community partners to guide the process, and we're also conducting focus groups and community surveys.
Councilor
How much did
Stingle?
we pay for this study? What is the amount we paid?
I'm trying to remember. I think it was 100, was it 168,000, Allison, for the study? For Hunden
study,
360.
was not to exceed the 395.
Councilor Watley?
Thank you. Elizabeth, what level? I'm sorry, what level of sports does this go down to? Does it go down to the tournament level for like softball?
Yes.
Cause I get so many questions about how to bring that back, improving our
Exactly.
parks.
Exactly.
That's
Yes.
huge. That's so much potential.
Yeah, so we had a really good focus group that was just of our sports groups within Sugar Land. So we had our little leagues, we had the pickleball group, everyone came in. We had the Space Cowboys. So anyone sports related, we had the lady with a swim team that she represents that came in. So they had a whole hour just to voice like what their opinions are, what's going well, what could we do differently. And so all of that feedback has been taken in and will continue to be analyzed.
That's great. Thank you.
Of course.
Will you be sharing a summary report of that?
Absolutely. We will do a whole presentation on the final report of what they're recommending. Cause I mean, we anticipate that the recommendations will be for some capital improvement projects. It's just a matter of what makes sense for Sugar Land. They're gonna be analyzing what is being built all around us. Like the epicenter has been built by us. Our hotel was benefiting significantly from the epicenter. We had concerns that it would compete with Smart Financial, and it really hasn't. And so it's kind of like looking at all of the assets around us, not just in Sugar Land, and what is the right fit for us and how do we continue to be the crown jewel.
Councilor Watley?
Thank you. So one of the things that I talked with Imperial girls softball is that they've always had partnerships with hotels and restaurants to play a part in bringing those teams here, those teams from out of state for tournaments. Are we including those kind of partnerships? Okay. Great, thank you.
Okay, so then last, we're gonna cover the special event fund as well. So the purpose is to serve the city for services for required special events. We cover a portion of the city services needed. The fund also receives the rental fees from Crown Festival Park, Rivers River Park, and both of these parks were approved by voters in 2013. And Crown Festival Park was specifically designed to host major festivals and events that bring an economic impact. Most of the revenue on the fund comes from Smart Financial Center. 20% of the parking revenue that they receive goes into this fund. So for FY 26, the special event fund will continue to support the software needed to review and issue special event permits, along with one part-time employee for the park department to support the execution of special events and permitting. We intend to use the funds from this account to support the additional staff wages that will be required to execute events and activations during the World Cup so that the general fund is not impacted. And we will not provide funding for Jazz Fest and Sweet Beans in FY 26 due to our priority of the World Cup. But we are working with the producer to explore a new 2-year MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, which would reduce the festivals from 1 to 2 and move Jazz Fest to the fall of 2026. Jazz Fest is been seen as a market that is not being met in the Houston area and has done really, really well for us.
Councilor Jacobson?
What happened to Honeyland?
So we still talk to them. It was very expensive. We were trying to talk to them about moving into the fall because we have a lot of spring events. The fall's where we really need more activation. So they're still interested. They haven't gone anywhere else.
Councilor Veteran?
The software licensing, is that a yearly expense?
Correct.
Okay.
And it also helps, not only is it for the special event permitting, but Great Homes uses it as well.
How many special event requests do we get per year? Like 10 or?
I mean,
100 or-
anytime a public right of way is impeded, they have to file a special event permit. So even like when HOA does a parade for the 4th of July, they have to submit a special event permit. I don't have the exact number.
I think the last time I checked, we were at about 50 for the year for this year.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, next up, Stephen.
Good morning, nice to be with you all again today. So again, I was here with you last week, covering a redevelopment from the general fund side. And so for the most part, I've tried not to do any duplication of things, but there will be a little bit of overlap because as Elizabeth mentioned, we collaborate constantly in terms of our departments, but also in the funding sources as well. So there's times where maybe, especially like in the Imperial example, you all know it is 50-50 between 4A and 4B. All right, so to get started, I just wanted to give a quick overview of the 4B Corporation. So a little bit of background is almost 40% of Texas cities have formed a Type B corporation. These are nonprofits that collect a portion of the sales tax and they are dedicated for economic development. In 2024, Type B corporations collectively accrued over $1 billion in sales tax revenue in the state of Texas. Type B corporations versus Type A. So Type B corporations can do everything that Type A corporations can do in terms of eligible projects, but Type B can also do quality of life. So whereas Type A can do job attraction, retention, expansion, infrastructure, Type B can do all those things plus these quality of life amenities. And so that's where we've leveraged these different funding sources to really accomplish the projects that we are wanting to take forward. So our 4B corporation, my department is the liaison for the corporation. The board composition is made up of 3 city council members and 4 residents that are appointed by the council. So a different makeup than what the 4A corporation is, which is you all as the board. And their responsibilities are to review and approve recommendations on different economic development projects, incentives, strategic partnerships that align with the city's strategic objectives and our policies. So I wanted to give you kind of a little bit of a flavor for those that have participated recently in the orientations that we've done. We also did our orientation with the 4B board. We just have such a long history of how we have utilized strategically our 4B dollars for the city of Sugar Land to meet our economic development goals, but also maintain and increase those quality of life amenities that we all know and love in Sugar Land. So these are just a few examples. We had 4 slides, cut it down to 2, so there's a lot of examples. But just wanted to highlight, the first Colonial Mall Lifestyle Center, the Houston Museum of Natural Science, Sugar Land Town Square, of course, many park improvement projects there. You have the lighting at Eldridge, our civic arts, all the public art that we have is funded through our 4B corporation, and then another park project up there with the softball. And then there was also the pump track that was done at Brazos River Park. So a quality of life amenity, but also a tourism element of people coming in and wanting to compete and utilize that facility.
Catherine Jacobson.
Kevin, what good is public art?
Why are you giving me that question?
Spoken like a true artist.
The reason I ask is that I'm asking that in a facetious manner because there are some members of our community who would say, well, public art is a waste of money.
I would say that at least what I've seen from our community surveys that we get that are running all the time, public art is actually one of the things that is always ranked very highly that people love, at least from the surveys, love and want more of and have opinions of what they would like to see. I think murals has ranked really highly. I know Civic Arts has a mural program. And so although maybe art is always controversial because it is the eye of the beholder, I know that has been something that is loved by many, prioritized. We also, it just, in terms of changing what our quality of life look of our community versus other communities.
Paula?
Someone said to me that public art, we wouldn't get rid of playgrounds because playgrounds serve a certain need. And those who can't or don't want to use playgrounds, but public art gives them maybe the same sort of enjoyment as a playground or other kind of facility. So we're actually tapping into that group's needs.
Yeah, everybody has different things that they prioritize and want and need, and I think we're always trying to meet everybody's needs as much as we can, but I think also maintaining our own Sugarland brand and what we're trying to represent. So, yes, there's some more public art examples here as well as playground examples. This teenage playground at New Territory, this was one of our fund grant fostering unique neighborhood program, and that a little bit as well. So I wanted to cover some of our key accomplishments that we've had using 4B dollars as well as probably some other economic development dollars, but specific for our redevelopment department. So big news. When we first started with this slide, we're like, okay, like here's everything that we've done. And I'm like, no, we just need to be visuals. This was a big accomplishment. I think I just want to start off with saying, Sugarland has always been so strategic about what we want to do in the economic development space in terms of, there was the Visioning Task Force 25 years ago that laid out all those destination venues of Constellation Field and Smart Financial Center, the Houston Museum of Natural Science. Redevelopment, Imperial, Lake Point, this is our next big thing, right? We've accomplished a lot of things, showed you a lot of pictures of the things that we've accomplished, but now this is the next big thing that is really going to take Sugarland to the next level, us continuing our economic development, us continuing to improve quality of life, and our economic development opportunities to maintain this city and that we are thriving. So of course, you all know, big accomplishment. Imperial redevelopment has been struggling for many years. We've taken different approaches of really trying to partner with the private sector, but those barriers were just too high for the private sector to be able to do this alone, even with our support. And so the bold step was taken of acquiring and assembling these parcels. That's a key thing. This wasn't just buying the piece of property. There was multiple parcels and property owners that it needed to be assembled. And you often see this in the redevelopment space, that the cities have to take that type of role in order to kind of get you to that next step that then redevelopment can take place.
Councilor Single.
I had a question that, we had 4 developers who had the property there and we bought 2 of them. The other 2, they didn't want to sell, or we only wanted to buy 2 out of 4. I think the property in the Imperial area was owned by 4 different property owners.
No, 3. There was 3, and then so the Suba tract was not one that we purchased. So there was SLP 90 Air, which is Hunton, Denani, and then Suba. And then, I mean, if you want to count us, number 4, if we had owned the container warehouse, that one building. So I guess that makes up 4, but we acquired the parcels from Hunton and Denani, but we did not acquire the Suba tract.
And is it because we did not want to acquire, or they didn't want to sell?
They are not interested in selling, and so we've had good conversations with them in terms of future partnerships on how the redevelopment rolls out. Okay, so I do want to, you heard a little bit about marketing, public relations, and so this is kind of 2-part. You'll hear a little bit on later slides, but I just want to kind of emphasize the Imperial acquisition has created significant media attention. So there's 2 things that I want you to take away from this slide. One is that our reach, because of this, reached 29 million people, and it was an estimated media value of $131,000. So that is money that we didn't spend to get that attention and advertisement, but was garnered because of the media attention we were able to get from the story. So we have a contract for a public relations firm. I believe it's about 50 or so, maybe it's a little bit more, 100,000 in that time frame, but we've already exceeded that just in the value of what we've gotten from this. So it pays for itself. The other thing is that we have our Zen City, which constantly monitors that community sentiment and has just been overwhelmingly positive since the point that we made the announcement all the way through to the announcement of we've officially acquired it. It's been 93% positive, 6% neutral, and just 1% negative. It's just indicating a really strong support for the steps that the city is taking with redeveloping. All right, another key project for redevelopment has been our former Floor campus. It was recently acquired by the Lovett Group, which is a group that has a tremendous amount of development experience, residential, commercial, and industrial. They are Houston-based, but they are national. And the key part for 4B is that we provided a $7 million incentive for the civic space. So the lawn area and the bridge area there is going to be the civic space areas in this Lake Point Green. The update is that demolition is still so far expected to start next month with the phase 1 construction, which you kind of see on the map there, that yellow area, hopefully to start this coming summer or summer 2026. And then we already talked about Town Square a little bit. Again, this was a partnership in terms of redevelopment and economic development, and really the focus on trying to reinvest in this real estate to make it competitive long-term, that we can continue to generate visitors, but also those office tenants to be here and overall maintain the relevancy of this real estate. This is our Purple Mountain, just as a reminder from last. All right, fostering unique neighborhoods. Fostering Unique Neighborhoods grant. This was formerly what we had called our joint CIP program. It started all the way back in 2002. But in 2021, we've rebranded this the Fund Grant, Fostering Unique Neighborhoods. And we partner with HOAs and POAs in a one-to-one reimbursement maximum of $75,000. But it has generated almost $5 million in quality of life projects since the life of the project. Some of the highlights for 2025 was we had 5 approved projects totaling almost $1 million of private investment, with almost 400,000 of that was pledged from the 4B. And so you'll see some of the pictures there of the completed projects, from playgrounds to fountains to the hills banners. It's been a great kind of neighborhood identity for them that they worked very hard on. And then these really neat walking esplanades in the Sugar Creek neighborhood where there are not sidewalks, so it creates that walkability opportunity.
Councilor Watley?
Devin, I gotta tell you, thank you for that darn fountain. Can you tell us how long we've been working on that fountain?
Well, I'm pretty sure I was pregnant with my 3rd daughter when I did the site visit, and she's
So 4 years in the works for that fountain, and if you haven't driven by that fountain at night, please do, because it's working now, and it's just amazing and beautiful. Thank you.
really glad I was able. All right, retail refresh. So this was a new program in 2025. We had it a commercial revitalization grant. For 2026, we are going to be rebranding it to retail refresh, a little bit shorter, and really kind of honing in on what the purpose of this program is. This has been an effort as part of our overall redevelopment initiative of being able to give an opportunity and incentive for that reinvestment to occur in our commercial centers. So and this was, this is a pilot. We were going to see how it goes, put it out there, put some of the imagery out there to get people to dream big, dream differently. Also opportunities to build new relationships, strengthen the relationships we already have with a lot of the commercial owners. We had 4 applications representing 2.7 million in proposed commercial improvements. One agreement has been approved for First Colony Mall, and so they'll be doing this playground by the end of this year. The picture doesn't show it, but there is a shade structure also over this playground. And then there is one project that is in the works that we'll be bringing forward to the 4B board for consideration. And then 2 projects did not move forward just due to some changing market conditions, as well as not meeting some of our city development code requirements. All right, so jumping in, so those are just highlighting some of our accomplishments that we've had with FY 2025, mostly 4B related expenditures, but obviously some partnerships in there. We always want to try to use our funding sources to the best of our ability. But to jump into fiscal year 2026, and this is just kind of highlighting those upcoming projects and key budget expenditures. Since we are owners of all of the 40 acres now, like I said, we had always, or for at least the last 4 years, owned the container warehouse. where the Children's Museum is, and we have the Heritage Museum on the second floor along with our visitors, former visitor center. But we are gonna need to have some operations and maintenance expenses now that we are maintaining these 40 acres as we get it ready for development. And so those funds are not legally allowed to be coming from the certificate of obligation that we issued for it. Those can only be for the acquisition and capital expenditures. So we are going to be using the hotel occupancy tax funding for this 150,000, kind of estimated there, what we anticipate some of those expenses to be, mainly the landscaping maintenance for grass, trees, those types of things, and then a little bit on the utility side, and of course, some of our insurance requirements. For capital improvement programs, just lumping these kind of all together, when you look at the income statement for 4B, which where he talked about has already been workshopped with the 4B board and approved. The 4B board also, I forgot to mention, has a subcommittee that is of 2 of the members that they meet before we do the workshop. So all these kind of layers of review that have been done. But if you look at the income statement for the capital improvement program, these are the 3 programs that are under there. The retail refresh grant, we're budgeting 500,000. The fund grant, we're budgeting 300,000, and then parks improvement reinvestment is at 1.8 million, and that is for Eldridge Park to do some conversion of some of the turf there. We will also be working on future, redevelopment planning of key sites. Some of this may involve some of our services line items that we have in our operating budget, and some of it may just be things that we utilize our staff in our redevelopment department to work on. But Imperial, we do have a contract that we will be working on doing visioning with the community this fall, and identifying really what are those must-haves and nice-to-haves, and really get a cohesive community vision for what we'd like this site to eventually be. And then Sugar Land Town Center, as you heard last week when I talked about the Urban 3, this is our Purple Mountain. And noting here, we've got the picture of Sugar Land Town Square, but I'm talking about town center, like the overall rack from Highway 6 all the way down to Sweetwater. This is, although Town Square, yes, is our Purple Mountain, where you have the opportunity is really growing that out. And this is the ability of, we've got the mall, and how do all of these pieces, how can they have their next evolution, and really being forward thinking and planning for those things. So we will be focusing on Sugar Land Town Center and exploring these different opportunities for what are the next 5, 10, 15 years for this area, just trying to be proactive. And then our strategic plan, all-in initiative, I talked about last week of the fostering sensitive redevelopment, but it says actively foster redevelopment of key sites so they enhance the amenities and provide housing options. And so one of our objectives is to create a forward-looking housing strategy. And so in this next year, staff is going to be focusing on, what is that housing strategy? How can we plan for the future? We do not have more land. We also just don't have much diversity in our housing stock in terms of most of it's single family and multifamily, or small portion of multifamily, and even smaller percentage of like townhomes at I think it's like 2%, maybe less, or maybe I'm thinking 2,000 units. And so we're just going to be studying of what is our overall housing, where would we like to go, what could be some strategies of objectives that we would look at doing, and bringing those forward to the council for its consideration. So again, just kind of previewing some of our work plan that we'll be having, that we'll be working on at a staff level. And then event sponsorship. So this is new for FY26. We have the FIFA World Cup portion of the 4B will be used for that sponsorship. And then also for Sugar Land Town Square, 250,000. These are both things that are coming up in terms of contracts that the 4B board will be considering, but they are being budgeted as possible costs in those line items. For Sugar Land Town Square, the TERS 1, which has paid for those events for the last 25 years, is coming to an end. And so, but we still think that it is important from an economic driver standpoint to really be activating our plaza proactively. And so we've been working with the POA and reviews on what does that event programming look like, so it can continue to drive economic activity and visitors and benefiting the businesses that are in town square, and especially the ones that are actually facing the plaza. So for our major categories for our operating budget, professional services and marketing and promotion are the top ones, and then we have software subscriptions, memberships, business field and travel and training. As Elizabeth mentioned, we have some shared costs and memberships that we all some of it share, participate at different levels. I'll kind of point out for us, because of our really redevelopment real estate focus, we've gotten more involved with the Urban Land Institute. And so we recently, Jessica was on the group that helped have one of their blueprint events here in Sugar Land that was back in May, and a great opportunity for bring people out to Sugar Land. We've also gotten more involved in Biz Now, which has more of a real estate focus. We had the Houston State of the Market event in Sugar Land, not in Houston. And so that was really exciting, again, to get a lot of these real estate developers and affiliated consultants out here to Sugar Land to see what we have going on here and getting them out of Houston. And so our operating is 527,000. We have reduced it from previous years, just looking at some of our historical and realigning some of those line items. So just to highlight on the marketing, some of the key expenditures, the public relations contract, advertising and signage, event sponsorships, photography, videography. You've seen a lot of these things, right? Whenever we've had events, being able to have that visual presence that everybody really understands that, one, we're with the city of Sugar Land, and two, we're talking about redevelopment, and these are some of our redevelopment and quality of life types of projects. And so year to date, I mentioned about Imperial and that value of the public relations that we've had. So we've had year to date 65 total pieces of coverage. And so that has had an earned media value of almost 400,000. So we're really getting that money way back from what we've invested in the contract, how much we're reaching. And then one of the really exciting things, I'm trying to find my notes on this, that happened this year of when you do the public relations and the media and one story builds after another, and you have more and more stories that are mentioning Sugar Land, then media outlets are like, what else maybe hasn't been covered that there's a story that we can tell? And what happened was that's how we got landed in the New York Times this year. And so that was an organic, not proactively pitched piece, but it was because of our proactive efforts that happened. If you haven't read it yet, I really encourage. New York Times article alone reached almost 130 million people, and it had a media value of almost $75,000, just that one article, because it's the New York Times. So, and just if you would like to learn more about us, that's the QR code to get to our redevelopment webpage. And I think then I'm going to hand it over to Justin.
Thank you, Devin.
All right, good morning, Mayor and Council. I'm gonna be quick since a lot of you have probably heard from me a couple times this year on the budget piece. I'm gonna do a quick financial summary on the funds that Elizabeth and Devin talked about, and then Brian's gonna come back up and wrap us up for today. So as Devin mentioned, the board needs to put its own board and oversight over its own budget. I'm kind of highlight some of the steps that we've taken so far this year. Last month, we met with that budget subcommittee and then workshop with the full board. And then last week, the board did approve the proposed budget for fiscal year 26. We'll wrap up this process next month in September with council's approval on that budget. FY 26, we're looking at just under 10.2 million in total revenues. 9.5 of that is coming from our sales taxes. We are seeing a minor decline, a planned decline in revenues for fiscal year 26. Again, with the dissolution of the TERS, we're having that final payment from them of about 146,000 this year, reimbursed with the additional 400 parking spaces that we did in the Texas garage. On the expenditure side, I'm just going to cover some of the less exciting pieces that Devin didn't cover earlier, inclusive of the transfers out and the debt service. Total expenses for 26, just under $12 million. So we do have some outstanding items for those great things that the board report has done in the past. We have one outstanding series 2019. It's roughly 16.3 million in principal still to be paid as the start of FY 26 with roughly 1.8 million in debt service annually. On the transfer side, we do transfer 1.3 million to the general fund. That goes towards reimbursing the salaries for the economic development staff who are budgeted and paid out of the general fund. And then we also have 240,000 in cost allocation, which covers some of the other overhead support services that our general fund administration assists with delivering those 4B projects. We also have 2.64 million in transfer to debt service fund. That's going to be covering the annual debt service on those certificates of obligation that we issued for the Imperial purchase. And then lastly, we have 250,000 for the Civic Arts program, which we talked a little bit about the programming in FY 26 last week. Looking at a financial overview for the 4B, we are anticipating again a decline of 70,000 in revenue for fiscal year 26. Our expenditures are coming down by about 3 million with some one-time allocations that we've had this current fiscal year. But overall, we are planning to end with an available fund balance of 10.6 million. That's well over our policy requirement of just only 1.4 million. And our bond coverage ratio is very healthy at 5.8 times coverage. The standard for that is 1.25 times. On the SLDC again, you all served on the board for that. Previously, we did workshop with you all on July 1st, and the board approved a SAC earlier this month. There was a workshop on that, and then it will also be approved the rest of the city budget on 16th. Again, sales tax collections making up the majority of the revenue of the SLDC. We're estimating about 10.5 million in revenue. This one's slightly higher, the higher fund balance, accruing some more income next year. Here we do have a larger segment of third one revenue going away. That's associated with just a larger investment that was made in infrastructure in the back during those development phases. So here again, I'll talk about just some of the less exciting things that Elizabeth will talk about again, debt service and transfers. On the SLDC side, we do have two remaining outstanding debt issues, both Series 2014A, which is one of the three issues that we originally did to fund the Smart Financial Center construction, and then Series 2021, which is a refunding of a previous issue. The 4B side, we have roughly about 3 million out to FY 38. One of those, if paid off, FY 39 and 40 would drop a little bit in that debt service. Transfer side, we've got 1.62 million going to general fund. Again, this is the staff salary reimbursement, cost allocation overhead. The debt service fund side, we have 0.29 million. This side is slightly higher on the SLDC side because we're not only covering the Imperial COs, but also the remaining debt that we transferred over that was previously covered by our hotel occupancy taxes, roughly about 600,000 in debt. And then lastly, the SLDC does contribute 50,000 here into our airport fund. The financial summary here, we're looking at roughly 1 million less in revenue and roughly 650,000 decline in expenditures for fiscal year 26. Again, here we're looking at a very healthy fund balance of 13.2 million, which is 11.8 over that policy requirement. And again, with a very healthy bond coverage ratio of 3.58. Well, on the tourism side, again, that hotel occupancy tax, 7% of the room receipts. Look at a total of 3 million in revenues for fiscal year 26. Those expenses, again, of 2.6 million are primarily the tourism program. We have one last remaining debt payment there of roughly about 350,000, I believe. Here again, we do have a healthy fund balance of 3.4 million planned by the end of fiscal year 26, well above the 15% policy requirements. On the special events fund, again, it's the one that captures activity over at the Crown Festival in Brazos River Parks. 20% of the parking revenues on the financial, we're estimating roughly about 400,000 fiscal year 26. On the expenditure side, we do have the majority of that 1.1 million going for the operations for the World Cup next year. Have that little part-time personnel and some minor O&M expenditures there. Half after spending that down in FY '26, we'll have roughly $450,000 in available fund balance for future events. And last, I just kind of wanted to provide a little history on department revenue. Obviously, in 2021, with some of the closures, COVID over us financially had some low numbers. The thing that really picked up over the last couple of years, conservatively estimating roughly about 400,000 in fiscal year '26, or somewhere around 108,000 cars parked. That'll depend depending on what the parking rates are and then which events come out and cars are parked.
Thank
Is that only for Smart Financial or is that other locations as well?
Specifically just one. Yes, sir. Okay, I'll take any questions on those funds.
Any questions? Thank you, Dustin.
All right. Hello, everybody. I have two more.
No, I'm gonna ask the question about the next slide.
Okay. I have two more slides, but before I get to them, I just want to say, this is our fourth workshop. This is that represents 12 hours. It's the orders of magnitude almost more than we've done in the past. Really an opportunity in the past where you've heard from the budget department and oftentimes the ACMs, but this year the directors came out and presented really the passion that they have for the work that they're doing. And I hope that we're able to see that. I think what you will get from us is most likely is a survey on how we can improve this for next year. Would you like to see more or less different? We already got some feedback about timing and schedule, but I do want to just one last time thank the budget department and all the departments that did that. Although she's not, sorry.
No, I just wanted to say from my side, of course, this was my first budget exercise, so I want to really thank the whole budget team. Shale is not here, but please convey that to her. And the all department which presented, I think it was extremely detailed work done. And even though I had question on the tax rate and all, I think overall we are united in supporting the city staff and want to congratulate the good work which everybody is doing. Thank you.
I would be remiss if I didn't also point out this is Jim Calloway's last of 50 years of 12 hours. It's probably, gosh knows how many hours. I would probably over 600 slides. Moving forward, though, we do still have a lot of work to do. We are nowhere near done. I have up there published the tax rate hearing by September 2nd. Done already, right? We had to do it 7 days in advance. It went out yesterday, so that one would get a big green check mark next to it. We will be hosting, it says we'll be hosting this public hearing on the tax rate September 9th. Again, as the asterisks on there are both because we didn't go all the way to the no new revenue rate. We're not required to do that, but we're doing it in the interest of transparency. And then also the approval of the tax rate is scheduled to be on the thing. Now, just the truth in taxation information here. All the information about the upcoming budget-related things is on here. On the 2nd, we've got a very long agenda on the 2nd, not just budget related, but other things as well. But we will have a public hearing on the budget, public hearing and first reading of the fee ordinance, right? You heard from Parks, you heard from Planning, you heard from Katie, and Utilities. There's a number of fee changes. All of that's built into what's been published. The public hearing on the PIT assessment, as well as the amendment for the FY25 projections, right? There's 20 projections in your budget. Obviously, since we filed the budget, the projections for 25 have changed. They always change. The revenues go up, expenditures go up, everything. Justin will be laying all that out for y'all next Tuesday. And then on the 16th, we will bring to council for adoption the budget, the 5-year CIP, the tax rate, and we'll do our second reading on the fee ordinance. And that wraps up this meeting, unless you'll have any. We do have some questions we got from today. We documented them. We'll be getting some answers. I know.
Well, thank you again to the budget team for all your hard work and the entire staff. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, great job, guys.
Do we need to turn in this? We need to turn that in.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm making motion.
That is, I don't know that I can.
Okay, we've got a motion.
I made a motion for adjournment.
Okay, for sure.